Welcome back to the deep dive. We are doing something a little different today. Usually we wade into a topic, test the waters, get acclimated. But today, honestly, we are stepping directly into a fire. We are looking at a stack of materials centered around the novel Burned Down Master's House by Clay Cane.
Right.
And I want to set the expectation right now, right at the jump. If you are expecting standard historical fiction, the kind with heaving bodices, romanticized battlefields, and a focus on polite endurance, you are in the wrong place.
You really, really are. This isn't that kind of story. I mean, if you look at the author's note, Clay Cane explicitly frames this book not just as a narrative, but as an act of literary opposition.
Literary opposition.
That's a specific phrase he uses. He describes the book as a weapon against forgetting. So we aren't just analyzing a plot today. We are analyzing, well, a counteroffensive against a very specific, very pervasive type of historical erasure.
That is a heavy framing. A weapon against forgetting. I think that sets the tone perfectly. We are heading into the antebellum South, specifically to a plantation called Magnolia Row in Goochland, Virginia. But the core premise here isn't passive suffering. I think culturally we have this reflex when it comes to slavery narratives in media. We expect to see endurance. We expect to see the noble survivor who keeps their head down and prays for a better afterlife.
Right, the resilience narrative, the idea that survival itself is the only victory available.
Exactly, and survival is resistance, absolutely. We don't want to minimize that. But Cane is doing something much more aggressive here.
Much more.
This is a narrative of active, violent, and highly strategic resistance. We aren't just talking about running away into the woods. We are talking about burning the entire system down.
We're looking at the breaking point.
There.
The mission of this deep dive is to map the spectrum of resistance presented in the first few chapters of this book.
A spectrum, yeah.
And it is a spectrum. It's fascinating because resistance isn't just one thing. It evolves. We're going to see everything from the kinetic, visceral resistance, literally burning a house to the ground,
Right.
to the quiet chemical resistance of poison, and finally, to the psychological and economic resistance of the post-war era.
We have a massive stack to get through. We are going to cover the introduction, which is basically a manifesto in itself, and then we're going to break down the specific arcs of Luke and Henri, Josephine, and Charity. These are characters who look at the system of chattel slavery and decide that surviving it isn't enough. Destruction is the only moral imperative.
Yeah, and just a heads up for you listening. This is heavy material. The source text has extensive content warnings for abuse, torture, and extreme violence. It does not shy away.
Not at all.
But, and this is a key insight from the author, you cannot sanitize the history without erasing the truth of the resistance. If you don't understand the brutality, if you don't look at the gore, you can't understand why the fire was necessary.
That's a great point. So let's start where Cane starts. Let's look at the introduction. He calls it the War on History. And he doesn't mince words here. He connects the historical erasure of slavery directly to modern political manipulation.
It is a bold opening. He frames misinformation not just as people being wrong or people being uneducated, but as a deliberate tool.
A tool, right.
He argues that misinformation is a weapon used by oligarchies to create what he calls political vulnerability.
That phrase really stuck with me, political vulnerability. It sounds like something out of a spy novel or a treatise on cyber warfare, but he is applying it to history textbooks.
It's the same mechanism, though. I mean, he quotes Alexander Nix, the former CEO of Cambridge Analytica.
Well, you're right, the firm involved in the Facebook data scandals.
Exactly. Nix famously said that something doesn't necessarily need to be true as long as it is believed. Cane takes that modern concept of fake news and psychological operations and applies it to the narrative of the antebellum South. He says, and I'm quoting here, "Truth and facts are ultimately what make collective opposition possible."
That is the nugget right there.
Right.
If you can convince a population that their history was actually peaceful or that they were well cared for, you remove their impulse to resist in the present.
You cut the cord.
You sever the link between past trauma and current injustice. You essentially gaslight an entire demographic.
Precisely. And this leads us directly to the lost cause mythology.
Let's define that for anyone who might not be familiar.
For sure. This is the romanticized version of the South that dominated American culture for decades. The Gone with the Wind narrative, the one where enslavers are benevolent patriarchs, the plantation is a calm, ordered society, and the enslaved are, if not happy, at least part of the family.
And Cane's point is that this isn't just bad history.
No, it is active propaganda designed to maintain a racial hierarchy.
And he points out that this isn't ancient history. This isn't just about statues from the 1920s. The text cites Kanye West's comments from 2018.
Right, where he suggested that 400 years of slavery sounded like a choice.
That moment was a cultural earthquake. I remember when that happened.
King calls it abominable, but he uses it to show how effective the propaganda is.
Yeah.
If a black cultural icon, someone with that much reach and influence, can be convinced that chattel slavery was a choice, the war on history is being won by the other side.
The powerful example.
He also brings up recent political moves, like Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley downplaying the causes of the Civil War, or those Florida curriculum changes suggesting enslaved people developed skills for their personal benefit.
That skills argument always stops me in my tracks. It frames slavery as a perverse job training program.
Like an internship.
Like it was an unpaid internship gone wrong. Keynes spends a lot of time dismantling that specific idea. He draws a really sharp line between this slavery existed everywhere argument and the reality of American chattel slavery.
This is a crucial technical distinction that often gets muddied in online debates. You will hear people say, well, Africans sold Africans, or the Romans had slaves, or the Greeks had slaves.
All the time.
And Kane tackles this head-on. He explains that while forms of servitude existed in African societies, it was fundamentally different.
Let's unpack that difference because I think it's vital for understanding the book's context.
It really is. In those other systems, slavery wasn't necessarily for life. It wasn't race-based dehumanization.
So you could work off a debt or something.
You could work off a debt, you could integrate into the family, and most importantly, the status wasn't heritable.
Right. Your child wasn't born a slave just because you were. You didn't pass the condition down like a genetic defect.
Exactly. The key takeaway from the source is that the U.S. system was a uniquely European reinvention. It commodified humans.
You turned people into products.
It bred them like livestock. It created a permanent underclass based solely on skin color. It stripped the human being of personhood entirely.
And that total dehumanization is what makes the skills argument so offensive to the author.
Of course, you don't teach skills to farm equipment. And that is how the law viewed these human beings.
And that is why Kane says we need this specific story. He addresses the fatigue, I feel it, you feel it, the, oh God, another slavery movie reaction.
You see it on social media every time a new film comes out. Can we watch something else?
And Kane validates that feeling. He understands it, but he argues that fatigue is dangerous.
He does.
If we stop looking because we are tired, the myths win. He says the goal isn't to make white children feel bad, which is the common political talking point right now, that teaching this history inflicts guilt.
Right, the critical race theory panic.
Exactly.
Right.
Kane flips that. He says the goal is to inspire them to see themselves in the rebels, not the oppressors.
It is a powerful reframing. It shifts the focus from guilt to allegiance.
Allegiance, I like that.
Whose side are you on? The side of the whip or the side of the fire? It invites the reader, regardless of their background, to identify with the fight for freedom.
Which is a much more empowering way to engage with history.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the fire, let's move into the narrative itself. We are moving into section 2. Fire and Fury. This covers the story of Luc and Henri, and honestly, reading this felt like the emotional anchor of the entire first half of the book.
It is. This is where the abstract concept of resistance becomes flesh and blood. We are introduced to two men who represent two very different experiences of blackness in that era and two different responses to trauma.
Let's break them down. We have Henri first.
Henri is the troublemaker. He was trafficked directly from Africa. This is a vital detail because Henri remembers freedom.
He has it before.
He has a reference point. He remembers his name. He remembers his village. He remembers his mother being murdered, her skull crushed against a rock by the captors.
That specific detail, the skull against the rock, it sets up the level of violence Henri carries inside him.
It does. He hasn't been broken in or institutionalized the way the system wants.
Yeah.
He still has his language, his memories, and a raw spiritual connection to a life before chains.
He's the warrior.
He represents the external warrior rage. He knows this system is unnatural because he has seen a world without it.
And then there is Luc. Luc is Magnolia Row, born and raised. He has never seen Africa. He has never seen freedom.
Right. They call him Soft Luc because he works in the house, which is a derogatory survival mechanism within the community.
But his life is anything but soft.
Not at all. His reality is horrific. He is educated, he can read and count, but he is trapped in a psychosexual nightmare with the master's son, Junior.
That relationship, if you can call it that, is deeply disturbing. The text says Luke is chained to Junior. They were raised alongside each other, almost like shadows of one another.
But Junior is described as a pink snake.
A pink snake. What a description.
It is a study in proximity and power. Junior is flamboyant, demanding, and cruel. He abuses Luke sexually and physically, treating him as a plaything, but it's complex because there is this toxic intimacy.
Right.
Junior represents the corruption of the soul that slavery inflicts on the enslaver. He is a monster created by absolute power. So you have Henri, who wants to burn the world down from the outside, and Luke, who is trying to navigate this suffocating intimate hell on the inside.
But they find each other. And amidst all this horror, Cain writes a genuine romance. It is tender, it's quiet.
It's beautiful, really.
Luke teaches Henri about numbers, and there's the specific moment that really got me. Luke gives Henri a birthday.
That is a massive act of defiance. Enslaved people were often denied knowledge of their birth dates. It is a way of stripping individual identity, of keeping them disconnected from the passage of time.
Like you don't even own your own life's timeline.
Exactly. By sharing his birthday, August 21st, Luke is helping Henri reclaim time. It gives them joint ownership of a day. It separates them from the master's calendar.
And that leads to the river scene. They sneak away, and for a brief window, they are just two men in love, bobbing in the water.
It establishes the stakes. Resistance isn't just about stopping the pain. It is about fighting for something.
For love, for humanity.
They are fighting for the right to be human, to love, to be intimate without coercion. The text describes them in the water, and for a moment the plantation disappears. They feel free.
But of course, on Magnolia Row, freedom is a fragile illusion.
It shatters pretty quickly with the return of Solomon. This section, I had to put the notes down for a second. It is visceral.
Yes, rough.
It is necessary brutality, though. Solomon was a runaway who was captured. Mr. Raglan, the master, decides to make an example of him, but he doesn't just whip him.
Oh.
He uses a drawing pin, a thumbtack, to blind Solomon in one eye. And he severs his toe. It is slow, calculated, almost surgical torture.
It is designed to terrorize the others. The message is clear. Look what happens when you try to leave. I will take pieces of you.
But here's the thing about terror. Sometimes it breaks people, and sometimes it radicalizes them.
For sure.
For Luke and Henri, seeing Solomon broken doesn't make them docile. It makes them realize that staying is a death sentence anyway.
That, combined with the situation with Luke's mother, Miss Emily.
Right. Miss Emily is dying of cancer in a shack at the edge of the plantation. She is in agony. The system has used her up and thrown her aside.
And she asks Luke for mercy.
But she is not asking for water or medicine.
She is asking for death. She says, don't leave me here. She refuses to die by the disease or by Raglan's hand. She wants her son to free her soul.
It is a heartbreaking inversion of the mother-child dynamic.
I can't even imagine.
It is. Luke, with Henri's help, ends her suffering with a blade while chanting prayers. It's a mercy killing. But think about the psychology of that. It is essentially the first act of violence Luke commits against the order of the plantation.
He takes a life to save a soul.
And it seals the bond between him and Henri. They decide they can't stay.
So they run. They try to follow the advice Solomon gave. Take the high ground. Avoid the rivers where the dogs can track you.
But the system is too tight. They get caught. And this brings us to the breaking point. They are dragged back to the big house.
And the punishment is?
It's biblical. Raglan cuts off Luke's ear. That is horrific enough. It marks him forever as a runaway. But then Junior, and this is where his obsession with Luke and his cruelty merge, he demands Henri be castrated.
It is the ultimate attempt to dehumanize.
It is. It's an attempt to take Henri's manhood, his identity, his future. It is meant to turn him into a non-entity, a gelding.
Just an object.
Henri screams. The world blurs. The text is very impressionistic here, reflecting the trauma. But they survive. They heal in the very shack where Luke freed his mother.
And as they heal, something shifts. The goalposts move.
Mm-hmm.
It is no longer about escape. It is about annihilation.
August 21st. Their shared birthday, that becomes the date of the reckoning. They aren't leaving until they settle the score.
The attack on the big house is cinematic. It isn't chaotic. It is methodical.
So methodical. They enter at night. They go to Junior's room first.
And the symbolism here is heavy. They use a broad axe.
Luke and Henri destroy Junior. The text is graphic, but the subtext is clear.
No.
They are attacking his masculinity, mirroring what was done to Henri. It is a complete reversal of power.
The plaything destroys the player.
They confront the source of their sexual trauma and obliterate it.
Then they move through the house. Henri takes down Mistress Kitty in the hallway, and finally they reach Mr. Ragland.
And Luke takes the lead here. Think back to Solomon blinded by a drawing pin.
Oh, right.
Luke gouges Ragland's eyes out with his thumbs. The text says he blinded the man who watched everything.
It is biblical, an eye for an eye, quite literally.
He removes the surveillance state that Ragland represented. He takes away the master's gaze.
But it isn't a clean victory. Ragland has a gun. He shoots Henri.
Henri dies on the floor of the master's house.
Right.
But his final command to Luke is the title of the book. Burn down master's house.
And Luke honors it. He, along with Ruby the house servant and little Josephine, they use kerosene lamps. This isn't just a fire. It is a funeral pyre and a beacon.
The visual Kane paints here is incredible. The enslaved community gathers and watches. They don't scream. They don't run to put it out.
They don't try to save the silver or the paintings.
No. Kane describes it as a jubilee.
That one choice is specific. Jubilee. Biblical liberation.
It cleanses the land. The fire consumes the portraits, the wealth, the genealogy, the symbols of oppression. Luke walks away carrying Henri's body.
It is the end of Magnolia Row, but it is the genesis of the resistance for the next generation.
Exactly. Because watching that fire imprinting it onto her retina is little Josephine.
Which brings us to section 3, the poison and the quiet. We jump forward in time. Josephine is 18 now.
She has been sold to the Baynard family on a smaller farm. She is traumatized, described as foggy and disconnected. She's barely there.
She's just a ghost.
But she retains the memory of the fire. That potential for destruction is dormant inside her.
The Baynards are a different kind of evil than Ragland. Lafayette Baynard is a drunk and a predator. And Lady Baynard, Leela Ann, she is. She is pathetic, but dangerous.
So dangerous. She is a former poor woman desperately cosplaying as an aristocrat.
She is cruel because she is insecure. She whips Josephine for cold eggs. It is that petty, everyday tyranny of the mediocre.
Yes. She needs someone to look down on, to feel like she is ascended. But Josephine finds a mentor here. Old Mama Bess.
Mama Bess is a fantastic character. She is the elder, the griot figure, and she teaches Josephine a very different philosophy of resistance.
A different toolkit.
Luke used an axe. Bess uses scripture and chemistry.
She quotes the Bible. No one can serve two masters. You cannot serve God and serve evil.
Therefore,
destroying evil is a service to God. And her weapon of choice is bad medicine, arsenic.
And where does she hide it? This is my favorite literary detail in the whole text.
It's so good. Inside the kitchen clock.
The clock.
It is perfect irony. The clock is the symbol of the master's regulation of their labor. It marks the time they don't own. It dictates when they wake, when they work, when they sleep.
And she turns it into a weapon.
By hiding the death inside the clock, Bess is saying, your time is up. She is reclaiming the mechanism of control and turning it into a mechanism of liberation.
Mama Bess uses cowrie shells for divination, and the ancestors say it is time to strike. It is just after Independence Day, the 4th of July.
The irony is just dripping.
The Baynards are celebrating liberty
while holding humans in bondage. The hypocrisy is the seasoning for the meal. Josephine prepares the dinner. She makes a feast, roast pork, greens, cornbread. But she weaponizes the domestic sphere.
She laces everything with arsenic.
The text mentions the cornbread specifically. She puts the poison inside and drizzles honey over it.
Sweetness masking death.
Kane uses bee imagery here. Josephine realizing she has a sting.
This is a poison in the quiet. Unlike the broadaxe, this is silent. It is invisible.
It allows the oppressor to consume their own destruction willingly. It plays on the trust, however twisted, that the master places in the servant who cooks their food.
The dinner scene is excruciatingly tense. The Baynards are sitting there discussing profits and horses, completely oblivious. And then the biology kicks in.
It starts with the children, then Lafayette, then Lady Baynard. The physical reaction is violent vomiting, paralysis. But what happens next is what defines this as collective resistance.
The enslaved community enters the room. Bess, Ezekiel, Ruth, Mary, Larkin.
And they don't attack, they don't help. They just stand there.
It is the collective witness.
They reclaim the space. The dining room, which was the seat of the master's power, becomes a courtroom. They are the jury, and the verdict has already been delivered.
There is this chilling moment where Lady Baynard is begging, and Josephine, who has been silent and foggy for years, looks at her and says, "You're gonna watch your children die."
It is brutal. It makes you flinch. But it is a mirroring of trauma.
She's forcing the mistress to feel what she's felt.
Josephine is forcing the mistress to feel the exact loss that enslaved mothers felt every time a child was sold or killed. It is forced empathy through trauma. She's saying, now you know what we know.
The aftermath is total erasure. The bodies are laid out, the family line ends, and the community walks out the front door.
They escape to Pennsylvania. Mama Bess gets to die peacefully in a bed, which, for an enslaved woman of her generation, is a victory in itself.
It's a defiance of the destiny the system had planned for her.
Absolutely.
This leads us to the final arc and another shift in the type of resistance. Section 4. The Mask of Freedom. We meet Charity.
We are in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, so technically we are near freedom, but Charity is still enslaved. She is being rented out to a white woman named Miss Clara Pedersen.
Miss Clara is a character archetype that, well, she feels very modern. She's the self-pitying ally.
Oh, completely. She's the white moderate that Dr. King warned about, transposed to the 1860s.
That's a great way to put it.
She's a Vermont abolitionist in theory. She probably read the pamphlets. But in practice, she married a slaveholder. Now she is divorced and broke, and she feels incredibly sorry for herself.
Well, being served by a woman she is renting.
Right. She complains about having to work like a peasant, all while Charity is literally doing all the actual labor and holding her baby.
The cognitive dissonance is off the charts. Clara treats Charity better than a field hand, sure. She speaks to her nicely. But Charity is still property.
Claire is complicit in the system because it benefits her convenience. She uses Charity to cushion her own fall from status.
And into this dynamic steps Larkin.
Larkin, the little boy from the Josephine story, all grown up.
And he isn't just grown up, he is thriving.
He's a free man. He owns a blacksmith shop. He's well-dressed. He navigates the space with total confidence.
His reappearance changes the air in the room. He approaches Charity and Clara. She is charmed by him. She is impressed by his articulation.
Which is condescending as hell.
It's extremely. It is the, you're one of the good ones attitude. Oh, you speak so well for, well, you know the rest.
Exactly. But Larkin knows how to play this game. This is his form of resistance, social maneuvering. He uses his charm to get invited to dinner.
He code switches.
He puts on the mask to get in the door.
The dinner party. This is the climax of the section. Contrast this with the poisoned dinner. No arsenic here.
No, just truth.
Larkin brings a sweet potato pie, a peace offering, but he sits at the table with Clara and Charity. That image alone, a black man, a black woman, and a white woman breaking bread together in the 1860s is radical.
It disrupts the social order. But Larkin doesn't just want to eat. He wants to confront.
He asks the question. He boldly asks Clara how she feels about her role in slavery. He puts her on the spot.
It is a moment of incredible tension. Charity is terrified because she knows the danger of upsetting a white woman. She knows that kindness can evaporate in a second.
But Clara, she actually answers.
She does. She admits shame. She says, I thought love could excuse certain things.
That line hits hard. I thought love could excuse certain things.
It highlights a different kind of resistance. We have seen fire. We have seen poison. This is psychological confrontation.
Right.
Larkin is looking white complicity in the face and demanding an accounting. He is forcing her to drop the mask of the victim. He's saying, no, you are not a victim. You are a beneficiary.
It is the mask of freedom being dropped. Charity sees this interaction and realizes that freedom isn't just about escaping geographically. It is about standing tall. It is about not shrinking in the presence of whiteness.
Exactly. It is about economic independence and the psychological fortitude to say, I am your equal and I will question you.
So we have journeyed from the broad axe to the teacup to the dinner table.
Yeah.
If we zoom out, what is Kane telling us about resistance?
He is telling us it is a spectrum. There is no right way to resist a system that wants to consume you. The method depends on the circumstance.
So Luc and Henri represent the physical uprising.
The Haitian Revolution style of burn it all down. It is necessary when the violence against you is total and immediate.
Then Josephine represents the domestic sabotage, the war from within, using the master's own comforts against him.
It's the resistance of the spy, the infiltrator.
And Larkin.
And Larkin represents the future. Building economic power, navigating the social hierarchy to challenge it. But they all linked by Magnolia Row.
They all come from the fire.
That plantation was the origin point of the trauma, but the fire that destroyed it sparked all these different flames.
There is a recurring mantra in the text that binds them all. Don't let them take what they can't touch.
That is the core thesis. They can take your body, your labor, your children, your ear, your toe. But there is a citadel inside you, your mind, your spirit, your ability to love. that you have to guard.
That's where it starts.
Resistance starts there. Before you pick up the axe or the poison, you have to refuse to let them own your soul.
And the understanding that freedom wasn't a gift. It wasn't Lincoln signing a paper.
No, it was seized. It was taken through broadaxes, arsenic, and sheer will.
It brings us back to that provocative title, Burn Down Master's House. It leaves us with a final thought to mull over. We like stories of reform. We like stories where the system gets better incrementally. But Kane is asking a harder question. In a system built on total dehumanization, is destruction the only true path to creation?
Can you remodel the master's house? Can you just change the drapes? Or do you have to burn it to ash to build something new?
And as Mama Beth suggests, is vengeance actually a form of divine justice?
Act of God, she called it.
An act of God delivered by human hands.
Yeah.
This has been a heavy, fascinating deep dive. There's so much more in the book itself. We only covered the first major movements. But I hope this gives you a sense of the literary opposition Clay Kane is constructing.
It is a reminder that history is not just what happened, it is how we remember it. And sometimes we need to burn down the myths to see the truth.
Thanks for listening. We will see you on the next deep dive. Take care.